The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is unhappy about the terms of the deal. According to Axios, quote, Bibi told Trump there is nothing to celebrate. Trump fired back, quote, I don't know why you're always so negative. This is a win. Take it. From your perspective, do you feel that this deal is a fair one for Israel?
Of course. Absolutely. I mean, I think what's interesting here is the different power relationship between the U.S. president and the Israeli prime minister that did not exist with the three previous American presidents who had to deal with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I think now you've got a case where an American president is able to put pressure on Netanyahu in such a way that he even had to take it, exactly what you just quoted, and even had to apologize to the Qataris for the Israeli strike there a few weeks ago. So this is different. And I just read earlier today where Prime Minister Netanyahu said this was a great victory for Israel and for peace and ... So I think he recognizes that he has had to change his tune here. Now, of course, he's not happy with it, but I guess that's the nature of any of these negotiations. If you're trying to stop the war, neither side is going to be completely happy with what they had to sacrifice. And in this case, I think Israel recognizes that many of their supporters around the world were starting to change how they viewed Israel, that this is bad for Israel's standing in the world as well. So there's a lot of things at stake.
And do you feel that Israelis had some unachievable war objectives at the end of this conflict during the last 6-8 months?
Look, Hamas is a terrorist organization, and I think what they did back 2 years ago was horrible. But you cannot destroy an insurgency by killing everybody. If we knew for a fact that every single Hamas soldier had been killed, you still have tens of thousands of young men that have witnessed what happened over the last 2 years there in Gaza, and their life situation has only gotten worse. So that's not how you end an insurgency, and I think the Israeli government is going to have to accept what previous Israeli governments had always accepted, a two-state solution, that this war is about land, it's not about religion. And the Israeli government is going to have to be a part of, or is going to have to agree to a two-state solution. Now, the hardest part, of course, is going to be coming up with an administrative authority, a government for the Palestinian side that can administer Gaza in a way that brings back basic services. People can try to rebuild a normal sort of life there. And not everybody will be in favor of that. So there will always be pressures, but I think it feels like we're closer to it now than we have been in a long time. And I certainly hope that people realize that this is an opportunity that they do need to seize.
Also, President Zelensky commented on this issue, quote, even Hamas is showing readiness for negotiations, but not Vladimir Putin. Do you think that the war in Ukraine could end the way the Israel-Hamas war did?
Well, I certainly believe it could. The question is, should it? I think any agreement where Ukraine's future is not secure is not going to be sustainable. I mean, if Russia thinks they just need to negotiate something and wait for a year or two and then start again, if Ukraine's defensive capabilities and security are not significantly better, to deter that from happening again, I think I could understand why the Ukrainian government would be reluctant to do that. And I don't think that what Putin, you can't, these are not similar situations. I don't think Putin should be rewarded for his attack on Ukraine, his illegal seizure of Ukrainian territory, and the thousands of Ukrainian children who have been kidnapped, and all the war crimes. They should not be rewarded for that. And so this is a decision for the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian people. Is it worth it to keep fighting? Is your future secure? And frankly, for the rest of us, we should not allow Putin to be rewarded to keep what he took over the last few years. But again, I would obviously defer to the Ukrainian government, Ukrainian people. How much more can you, or are you willing to do this?
Let's also cover our final topic, the recent meeting between President Trump, Pete Hegseth, and U.S. senior military commander. Secretary Hegseth even responded to your reaction on this on X. What does this meeting mean personally for you? What's your take on that?
Well, I have to say that, of course, this was a very unusual sort of gathering. And I'd never seen something like that where you brought back everybody, all those senior people back for a meeting, unless it was to talk about something like, strategy or whatever. This was not that. But I was proud to see how those hundreds of generals and admirals and top senior non-commissioned officers, how they comported themselves. They were professional, they were respectful, and they were quiet. It did not turn into a political rally. It was exactly what we should expect and what the American people should expect and what all our allies should expect, that the U.S. military is an apolitical institution. Its oath is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And it's been that way since our beginning. And I think that was important for everybody to see that the senior leadership of the military is an institution that is bound to the Constitution, not to any political party or one political leader.
But if you were a four-star general sitting in that room, how would you have felt after hearing these statements, messages from President Trump and Secretary Hegseth?
Well, there's several things that concern me about what was said, about the possibility of using the military against our fellow citizens in cities. Such an emphasis on physical standards that would potentially make it very difficult for women to be able to stay in the military. The way it was conveyed, I think every female soldier in the U.S. Army wants to meet the standard. So that's not an issue. It sounded like there was so much emphasis on things that would drive out or block a lot of people from serving who want to serve, and we would lose their brain and their technical skills. So that just seemed like a bit of a disconnect between what the military requires and what the secretary was advocating. Now, of course, anybody in the military should be fit. I mean, any Ukrainian soldier can tell you that the demands, even if you're a drone operator, you still have to be fit to operate in the field environment for a long period of time. I just thought that this was not the right approach when it comes to that. I think I'm uneasy with the way that they talked about rules of engagement. Rules of engagement have nothing to do with being politically correct or woke or anything like that. Rules of engagement are what help make sure our soldiers that we all operate within legal frameworks. And that's important because it helps make sure we're accomplishing the mission, not just killing everything in sight. And it also gives our allies confidence and the American people confidence. And there is also a psychological burden on soldiers who I've listened to Israeli soldiers talk about this. They care for the rest of their life if they were involved in something that killed innocent people, even if it was an order that they got. That's a psychological burden there, and I don't want any of our soldiers to ever have to have to deal with that.
Thank you, General Hodges, for your time and for your support for Ukraine, and glory to Ukraine.
Heroes Slava.